When hoop group ends for the day, uncertainty hangs heavy, and most of the kids wondered whether they'll spend the upcoming season playing their own games or cheering for someone else's. For now, though, Chris King is just happy to go home, even if he has to talk basketball to his dad the whole way. Chris's dad, Cam, showed up to watch the last few minutes of the day one-court run games. While there, he got the full scoop on Coach's forced retirement, and he's already thinking of ways to capitalize on it. Hoop Group's been along a long time, but I can't see it surviving this, Cam says to Chris as soon as he pulls his Toyota Camry out of the Carter Middle School parking lot. I'm going to say this, too. Your future ain't about to be ruined just because old man Beck had to step down. You feel me? Cam eases the sedan into the evening rush hour traffic and continues. This is your 7th grade year. It's serious now. And if you think you belong at Willowbrook, now's the time for you to show it. Chris sits on his hands and remains silent. He's honestly not sure where he belongs, but when his father turns to him, expecting a response, he nods and says, "Yes, sir," anyway. "Cool, 'cause I got a plan." Suddenly, Chris's abdomen feels as though someone is wringing it like a wet dish rag. "What kind of plan?" "That's for me to worry about, not you," his dad says, chuckling. "Just trust that I'ma make sure everyone knows how much of a star you are." Chris shifts uncomfortably in his seat. The first day of Hoop Group clearly showed that he was far from being the best kid on the court. On top of that, he's not even sure he wants to be a basketball star. But none of that matters, of course, not when your last name is King. Chris looks over at his father, sees his jaw muscles tighten, the wheels in his brain turning round and round. He thinks about the stories his dad has told him about his childhood, how he used to hoop back in the day but never got the love that Kendrick did. Even though Kendrick is 4 years younger, Kim spent much of his youth waiting backstage while his little brother, with talent and charisma oozing from every pore, soaked up all the spotlight. He's never admitted it, but Chris knows that his dad has never recovered from those slights. It's obvious in the way he spent his whole life trying to prove himself. Chris's father steers onto Piedmont Boulevard through the heart of downtown Loran, past empty buildings with 4 lease and 4 sale posters in the windows, past the giant sign that says "Long Live Lorraine." The hashtag is the slogan of a new organization dedicated to revitalization Lorraine's economy and encouraging people to shop locally. The signs are all over town, big and bright and covered in cherry green and yellow paint, and Chris can't help but wonder why they don't use some of the sign money to replace the broken basketball hoops at Garvey Park instead. "Listen," his dad says, "I was watching y'all play, and if I'm be honest, nobody out there was better than you. I mean, you got it in your head a little bit, but you still had the purest game. You feel me? That Jaden kid was a mess. He was just jacking up shots 'cause he let that girl, what's her name again? Tamika? Yeah, Tamika. Jaden let Tamika throw off his game. He definitely ain't a star. I'ma tell you that. And Tamika," Chris's dad laughs, shakes his head, "I don't know how she thinks she's gonna hang out with a bunch of dudes, but whatever." Chris's stomach twists again. "What I'm saying is, you don't need none of those scrubs." Chris swallows hard and looks at his father's face, all hard and stern. He knows better than to argue. "Yeah, Pop," he says, fake smiling and nodding. "I feel you." Chris has no idea what his father has in store. All he can do is hope that it doesn't turn out as badly as his last great idea. It's been 3 years since his dad roped Kendrick into a shady deal selling knockoff jerseys. 3 years since Cam had to do 6 months in jail for concocting in scheme, and 3 years since Kendrick last spoke to Cam or to Chris. A block and a half from Carter Middle, in an apartment complex buried under decades worth of disrepair, Dex Slides had his hands down the front of his t-shirt and retrieves the key that is dangling from a long black shoestring fastened loosely around his neck. He slides the key into the lock, turns the knob, and with a firm shove from his shoulder forces the door open. Dex can't even remember a time when the door didn't stick or, for that matter, when their landlord has ever come to fix a single thing in their apartment. In the meantime, he and his mom have learned to make do. A stiff push pops the door, a utility bucket catches the drip in the bathroom, a piece of wide silver duct tape keeps the oven doors from falling off. Inside his apartment, Dex retrieves his mother's old flip phone from the utility drawer in the kitchen. When he opens the device and sees 524 blinking back at him, his heart drops into his stomach. Dex's mom gets a 30-minute lunch and two 10-minute breaks when she works a full shift at Top Burger. Over the summer, they agreed that if Dex was going to play with Hoop Group this year, she'd schedule a second break for 5:20 every day. That way she'd be able to answer the phone when Dex calls to let her know that he's made it home from school safely. But today he's late, 4 minutes late to be exact. "Hi, Mom," Dex says as soon as he hears his mother's voice on the other end of the phone. Dex's mother sighs heavily into the phone. "Mom, I'm sorry. Today was the first day and there was a lot of drama at practice, so I didn't get to leave right at 5. Really, Coach Beck came late, and then he stepped down and—" "It's fine, Dex," she says, cutting him off. "I understand. I'm just tired, that's all." She stops talking loud enough for Dex to hear. Miss Felicia, one of his mom's co-workers, remind her that she only has a few minutes left on her break. Felicia says she needs a smoke, and Adam, their supervisor, won't let her leave the register until she comes back. Dex's mom mumbles that she'll be right there, and Dex's face warms with shame. "Listen, I gotta go," she says, turning her attention back to her son. "But you know the drill. Don't answer the door, don't invite anyone over, and make sure you keep the TV on." "I know, Mom." Ever since the break-in at Miss Bailey's apartment, Dex's mom has been worried that someone will force their way into their place while she's away at work. They don't have any family or friends nearby who can keep an eye on Dex when he gets home from school, and Dex's mom certainly can't afford to work part-time hours. The only alternative is to keep the volume inside the apartment loud enough that potential burglars may be scared off, and for Dex to become a master at getting his homework done while the TV drones fly away in the background. "Okay, baby," Dex's mom says just before she hangs up. "I gotta study for my biology test when I get home, but before that I want you to tell me all about the first day of Hoop Group, okay?" "Okay," Dex says. "Alright, love you. See you soon." Dex claps the phone shut and returns it to the drawer. Then he pulls a 1-pound tube of ground beef from the refrigerator and a box of hamburger helper from the cabinet. On Fridays, his mom sometimes brings hamburgers from the restaurant. Every other weekday, including today, Dex is responsible for his own dinner. His mom doesn't get home till around 8, so if he doesn't feed himself, he'll surely starve. Even then, between the 9-hour shifts at Top Burger and the constant studying for her associate's degree at Lorraine Community College, Dex's mom simply doesn't have time to cook. She was 16 when Dex was born. Deciding to drop out of her Carter High was easy, considering how little she cared about school in the first place. But years later, when Dex was starting school himself, she decided to get her GED. She'd already learned that finding a decent job without a high school diploma was incredibly difficult, then that raising a kid on a minimal wage and minimal family support was nearly impossible. Dex still remembers his mom squeezing in time to study for her GED when she wasn't working as a janitor at Carter. There were days when he just knew she'd give up, when Dex was sick with the flu, or she was sick herself, or the humiliation of scrubbing toilets at her old high school threatened to overtake her, but she never did. Dex's mom didn't have a lot of money to celebrate when she finally did pass on, and her certificate came in the mail a few weeks later, but she did splurge for double cheeseburgers and strawberry milkshakes from Top Burger. A few months later, she began working on an Associate of Applied Science in Nursing. Between work and school, the days are long for Dex's mom, so considers his box beat stroganoff a small price compared to the daily sacrifices she makes to build a better life for both of them. The bigger problem for Dex is finding a way to fill all the hours he spends by himself. It wasn't always like this being alone. He used to walk home from school with a group of kids that also lived in this complex, but as Dex began talking an interest in basketball and his friends began skipping their homework and then skipping school altogether. They all grew apart. Now, instead of spending afternoons playing video games or running errands for some of the older guys in the complex, Dex turns to YouTube. As soon as his homework is done, Dex streams old basketball games in an endless loop on the old desktop computer they bought for $56 from Lucy's pawn shop. It's not in great shape, but with a solid internet connection, it works perfectly fine for watching old film of the Cleveland Cavaliers. And Dex has watched a lot. He's watched enough interviews and game film on consider anyone who's ever been on the Cavs a close friend. He's also discovered that there's a Cavs era for his every mood. There's a 1970 Cavs for the dose of hope and excitement that new news brings. There's Austin, Mr. Cavalier, Carr's late 70s. Cavs for the days when it feels like all you have is never enough. And there's the early 90 Cavs with Mark Price and Brad Daugherty to remind you that anything is indeed possible. So in the moments when dusk turns to night, when Dex's books are returned to his backpack for school the next day and he's covered his mom's dinner portion in foil, he settles in and lets Joe Tate, broadcasting from the Richfield Coliseum, keep him company until he's no longer alone.